I'm greeting you from the Great Hall here at the Dennis Arnell Equality Center, the headquarters of Oklahomans for Equality. We sit in downtown Tulsa on the land that belonged to the sovereign nation of Muscogee. So we acknowledge our ancestors, but tonight is a special time for us to reflect. And on this International Transgender Day of Visibility, tonight it'll be a great honor for us to add to our memory wall Aubrey, who we'll be hearing more from her family. We just felt like it was so important that we tell Aubrey's story anytime somebody visits the Dennis Arnell Equality Center. And we have groups come through all the time, and we're able to tell them the history of LGBTQ people in Oklahoma. And it's a long history. Originally, when the colonizers arrived here in the Americas, they didn't find an empty, desolate continent. They actually found a very well-inhabited space. There were many kingdoms and empires and tribes stretched from the very southern parts of South America all the way up to the polar ice caps. And they found living among these indigenous people, they were a very prosperous people. They found roads that rivaled roads in Europe. They found architecture that superseded the architecture. They found vibrant cultures, economic trade, written languages, trade between different tribes and different nations and empires. But they also found among these people that they were deeply religious. And these deeply religious people had a core value that said every member of their tribe, every member of their family was valuable, and especially those who they considered gifted with gender expansive imagery. And so individuals who were different than the gender norms that you would associate with just the binary between male and female, those individuals were expansive and took on the roles that usually were assigned to female persons or the roles that were assigned to male persons, and they were able to exhibit and inhabit and act in those different roles, and their tribes valued them. Now, this was entirely different than what the European colonizers were familiar with. It conflicted with their understanding of rigid, sharp distinctions between gender and people's places in society. And this troubled them because it conflicted with their interpretation of what they thought was good or bad or right or wrong or just or evil. And so we know that one of their efforts to stamp out what was odd to them, what was different to them, we know the history of that. We know that they purposely tried to massacre among the indigenous people the people who identified as two-spirit, or people who were gender expansive. And they forced and converted and conquered the indigenous people of the land. And today we still live with the hateful consequences of that, and there still is not proper reconciliation, and there's still not proper atonement for those things. The reason we know that they massacred the LGBTQ persons that they encountered among the tribes is because we have them written in diaries that survive from the colonizers, of those who would document in great detail how they would kill the sodomites who lived among the indigenous people. And so here at the Equality Center, we have a whole wall dedicated to the indigenous people of the land that rightfully belonged to them, because we believe that we are faithful to tell the stories of our siblings who predated us, who lived before us, and we're living in a day and a time when there's still much confusion about gender expansive individuals. Our own governor just a few days ago signed a hateful piece of legislation that would have stigmatized, marginalized trans youth who were trying to just participate in extracurricular activities which help them develop team abilities and skills and be able to understand competition and sportsmanship. And yet we still to this day have people who refuse to show kindness and generosity and compassion to people who may be different than them. We still have people who force us into these narrow interpretations of our roles and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Tonight we're going to talk about an individual who was a mystery to some people, but she was family to our guest tonight. And we want to make sure we tell her story, and we realize that we didn't really have a proper way as we share these stories when individuals visit and tour the center. We didn't really have a proper way to help them see and understand Aubrey's story. And so tonight, on this International Day of Transgender Visibility, we're going to make sure that we have her image so that when we tell her story, we can let them see how beautiful, how unique, and how she speaks for the people of this land, the indigenous people. For the last 500 years, her voice still speaks to the beauty and the diversity of the human person. And tonight it's such a sad thing for us to acknowledge that she has been missing for 3 years, but it's also such a great comfort to know that she will now, as an elder, take her place here at the Dennis Arnell Equality Center, and she will tell the story of the people of this land. Tonight I would like to invite Pam, Aubrey's aunt, if she's going to come, and she's going to share from her heart.
Thank you, Toby, and thank you to the Equality Center. Here to share, as Toby said, Aubrey's story. I want to touch on the fact that when Aubrey went missing, when Aubrey went missing, law enforcement, we had difficulty with law enforcement. Approximately a week after she was reported missing, law enforcement hadn't done anything, and that's when Christian and I had found out. They had not done anything. They didn't believe she was missing because when I reached out, as soon as we found out a week later, they told me that they didn't think she was missing, that they thought she was just somewhere taking a cooling off period or just taking a break, and they blamed her lifestyle. And so when I spoke to the captain, he told me that they didn't believe she was missing, that due to her lifestyle. And it was hard to swallow, hard to accept that somebody would be saying that, because we knew that Aubrey wouldn't just go missing for a week or two and not be in contact with, anyone in the family. And it's just so devastating not having answers, not knowing, is she deceased, or is she, somewhere being held against her will? But immediately, some of the law enforcement that actually did their job, let's say, believe that, she's not with us anymore. So that was hard to accept. But I think the worst thing for me, the fact that she went missing, it's devastating, because you don't have any answers. You don't know anything of actually what happened. You hear a lot of rumors, a lot of hearsay, people pointing at each other, and I think the worst thing was the fact that law enforcement blamed her lifestyle, her high-risk lifestyle, for the reason that she went missing. And Christian and I have gone many, many miles, trying to get help. And within the past year, her case is taken over by the feds. And I think that helps us get some kind of relief, knowing that somebody's actually working on her case now. And they understand and respect Aubrey for who Aubrey is. They're in the small community, where she lived, excuse me, I'm sorry, where she lived, they didn't accept her. There was, Christian can share some of the things they went through, but even later on, you know, they still will not address her for, you know, the gender she identifies as. And, you know, we even have, say, family that still address her, you know, not the way that she identified. And it's just really hard to understand why people won't let people be who they are and let them love who they want to love. And it's, you know, Aubrey being Native American, you know, Two-Spirit, trans, it's like law enforcement there in the county she lived in just didn't care. I mean, just like blatantly didn't care. And so we, Christian and I and my daughter and her husband, we did not accept that. You know, we continued to fight, to speak out, to bring awareness, you know, not just to the fact that, you know, missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, men, Two-Spirit, you know, go missing. And it's just really, really hard. You know, one moment you think you're going to accept it, and then the next it's just like, you know, you just wake up in this nightmare over and over. But I hope that by Aubrey, us sharing Aubrey's story and continuing to have others share her story, that it brings awareness and, you know, places, I guess, put some heat on law enforcement for them to understand more of the LGBTQ community, excuse me, and, you know, be more respectful and accepting. I know, you know, it's difficult, especially in the small towns where Aubrey grew up. You know, she was who she was. She lived, you know, she loved people, she loved life. And I hope that one day that we get answers. And, you know, like I said, I hope that by us sharing her story and others, you know, it continues to bring awareness and people will open their hearts and their minds to accept everybody, you know. Thank you very much, Toby.
Thank you, Pam. Pam is Aubrey's aunt, and at this time we have Christian, and he is Aubrey's uncle, and he will come and share with you his thoughts about Aubrey.
Hello, everyone. My name's Christian. I never thought that I would have to be being Aubrey's voice in this sense. I never thought that I would have to be here without her and have to share who she was with the world. Growing up, I never really took into consideration that someday those memories are all I'm going to have. Those memories that I have of her at an early age, of us fighting over Barbies, us playing hide and seek or tag, running around in the woods without any supervision, but we were young and we were just being kids. That was an amazing time. You don't think that of someday that you're going to have to be somebody's voice. No one should have to be somebody else's voice. We all have a voice, then we can, I apologize, we all have a voice and we can all voice our opinions. It's really tough thinking about Aubrey in the past tense, because in my mind I can still go to Grove and I can visit her. I can still hear her laugh and see her. There are times where I don't think that I can make it to the day and I hear her just saying, keep going. And I know you hear that a lot whenever people go missing or when someone passes away, that you hear them and see them, but you actually do, and it's scary at first, but then eventually it becomes comforting. Having that comfort and having that those memories that are so real that you can still hear their voice whenever they're gone. They blamed her lifestyle whenever she went missing. The lifestyle of someone getting up in the morning, going to work, going to school, breathing, eating. That's the lifestyle. We all live the same lifestyle in that sense. There's people in different tax brackets. They have different ideas of what life is about. Aubrey wasn't flashy in any sense, except whenever she would dress up. Whenever she would dress up, she would put on gowns and she would dance around the living room to songs that most people wouldn't dance to. That's just who she was. Seeing people who were down and out on their luck, people who were being pushed down by either other people, by the system, by themselves. She was the one to reach out and help raise them up and give them a voice, let them know that they have a voice. Aubrey's been gone now for 3 years, and strangely those 3 years seem like they're all conjumbled into one day. Because it seems like yesterday, whenever we found the news that she was missing, it wasn't yesterday. It's not the agonizing phone calls every time the phone rings, you thinking that it's going to be someone with bad news about Aubrey, or maybe it's Aubrey herself calling to let us know that she's safe. Your heart doesn't skip a beat all the time whenever you think about them. It's really hard to picture life without your loved ones until you're actually living it. And by that time, it's too late to really take in all the moments that you've had with them. But you have these core memories that you remember. Things like singing certain songs. I know Aubrey and I, we would sing 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton from White Chicks, and we just fell in love with that song. We just loved it. And Breakaway by Kelly Clarkson, because that was Aubrey's song for a while, because she was wanting to get out of the small town and just live in the city and be around people who were more accepting. She didn't get that in her life. She didn't get to move to a city. She didn't get to find her support group that was there for her outside of her family. She didn't get to start a family. She didn't get to do a lot of things that we take for granted every single day. So now going forward, I feel like I have to live for both me and Aubrey, and that's not something that I'm complaining about. I take that with stride because I know that at the end of the day, Aubrey would want me to put my best foot forward. And that's what I continue to do. Aubrey was such an amazing person that it's so sad that a lot of you, if not all of you, will never get the chance to meet her. She was always the one to root for the underdog. She would always be the person, the voice of reason whenever someone was thinking outside of their comfort zone. If it was something where someone could get hurt, she would be the first person to voice it. She was really the mother hen of the group whenever I think about it. But we continue to push forward. We search for answers. We still post on her Facebook page, her missing Facebook page, updates, things like that. Just keeping her story out there. And we just want to thank everyone who continues to share her story, people who come forward and share stories or memories that they have of her. That helps keep us going. And the fact that, of course, Aubrey was just this amazing person in general helps fuel us, because for a while we weren't getting answers from law enforcement. We weren't getting anything from law enforcement. The only thing that we were getting was whatever we were putting out into the world ourselves. We had to go and be the boots on the ground. We had to go and search these places, talk to these people, and search for Aubrey. And we continue to do that. I really want to thank the Dennis Arnell Equality Center for being Aubrey's voice and just including her, because that's something she didn't have a lot of growing up. She wasn't always included. And it's sad to say, but after the fact that she may be gone now, the fact that she has gone now, she finally found her people. And I think that's the saddest thing about this entire experience. But I want to thank Toby for, again, including Aubrey. Thank you, KO. Thank you again. I greatly appreciate it. And here's Toby. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian, and so much, Pam. And at this time, we're going to have Aubrey's cousins. Is that right? You're a cousin. Yeah. And this is her cousin and her cousin's husband, who was our artist who helped us be able to have this beautiful portrait of Aubrey. So we're going to let them come and say a few words.
I just wanted to start by thanking Toby and the Equality Center for honoring Aubrey today.
Yes, I also want to say thank you for letting me be a part of something this beautiful. Whenever we just happened to be in the Equality Center, Toby was here, and he wanted me to do a piece for Aubrey. I was actually already working on one, so it worked out very well. And it really made me happy to be able to be a part of this and to be able to make a memorial, a tribute piece to someone this beautiful. I personally never got to meet Aubrey while me and Emily were together. I never got to actually meet her, but from everything I hear, I just know I would have loved her just as much as everyone else does. And whenever I did the piece, I did it as a digital portrait. And it was very challenging because I know how much she means to everybody, and especially to her family. So I wanted to make sure I captured her essence and captured the absolute beauty that she is. And knowing her backstory, that was also very heartbreaking as well, to know what I am working on, because I want to make sure this is her. Like I said, I wanted to make it a tribute piece. I want it to be just as beautiful as she is. Personally, I have been I've been a victim of hate crimes, and so I know what it means to be a part of that and for people to not accept you. And it's heartbreaking. We're all humans on this earth, and we need to learn to just love each other. And no matter what, that's what I'll always fight for, to make sure we always have equality, so you can be able to love who you want and not be judged. But again, I do want to thank Toby for letting me be a part of this, and thank her family for letting me do this amazing portrait. I am very proud of it.
I do want to add that that night that we stopped here by the Equality Center, we were downtown driving around kind of lost, trying to find somewhere to eat for dinner. And at the last second, my mom was like, how about we stop by the Equality Center? And so we did. And I definitely think it was Aubrey that night that brought us here. So, thank you.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you, Tyler. And Tyler, we have an art gallery here at the center, and so we want to invite you, if you ever want to do an exhibit, you can fill up our whole exhibit, because you are gifted to be able to, I loved how you said, catch her essence, her beauty and her dignity. I love this image because for me, it shows the sacredness of our people of this land, the indigenous people of this land, and she's speaking from wherever she's now being held by the Creator until her family can see her again. But there she is, and she's joined the voices of thousands of people from the indigenous people of this continent who are wanting us to know and remember them. So thank you so much, Tyler. Thank you so much, Emily. At this time, the Deputy Director of Oklahomans for Equality, Alex Wade.
you all for joining us via Facebook Live. Truly honored to be able to, to talk about Aubrey and her story. I was not able to meet her, but I like thinking about her story and seeing her face. I see so many people that come through our doors that I know, that I'm friends with, and it just, it hits your heart just knowing that that could be somebody that you know, and it is somebody that we know and that we care about that has gone missing. I was asked why, we acknowledge Trans Day of Visibility, why it's important. And as I was trying to think of what to say for that, it really comes down to understanding, to create an understanding of trans individuals, of trans experience, and if there was a greater understanding of people, there was more empathy towards transgender people, like Aubrey, like myself, like so many others, we wouldn't have officers telling Pam and the rest of Aubrey's family that it was because of her lifestyle that she went missing. We wouldn't be having things like SB2, like SB 1100 coming through our legislation. We wouldn't be having these kinds of conversations. We would be able to express joy and express the love that we feel as a community and as transgender people. Unfortunately, the joy is not all that there is to the trans experience, and it's important to acknowledge all aspects of that. We can't acknowledge just the bad, and we can't acknowledge just the good. But we need to be visible. We need to be open about our experiences and who we are. That's the only way we're gonna be understood. And you need to use, if you are a trans person, you need to use your voice to show who you are as an individual, what type of person you are, the community that you serve. And those who aren't trans also use your voice. Christian said that he's become Aubrey's voice and he never thought he would have to do that. That is something that everybody can do to try to uplift the voice of the trans community and to talk about the missing people, the missing Indigenous people, missing trans people, just people who are affected by violence and misunderstandings. And thanks everybody for joining us. This portrait will be up at the Dennis O'Neill Quality Center if anybody would like to view it to honor Aubrey's memory and her family.